This wasn't the video that I was going to make today. Over the last few months, this feeling that the internet is changing and that we are in the middle of some kind of a shift has been just gnawing at my brain a little bit, but I've not been saying anything about it. I've not been talking about it because I didn't know what to say about it. And then the other day I saw a video, it was a keynote talk by CONTE, the CEO of Patreon, and it's just sat in my head and it won't go away. So today's video is on that, and it's basically, I'm coming at it from the lens of how we as handmade sellers have to rethink how we use social media to promote our businesses. There's going to be some stuff in here that some of you may not want to hear. I didn't, but I also have been on the internet long enough to know that when this feeling arises, this feeling of things changing and moving and the anxiety of feeling like you might be left behind, it's worth bearing in mind, it's worth paying attention to, and if you don't evolve with things, then you do get left behind, so strap yourselves in. Social media changes all the time. We all know this. This is not our first rodeo. We all know this. However, since I would argue maybe the pandemic, the last 4 or 5 years, however long it's been now, I feel that period sort of, it changed the internet, it changed everything, and it kind of sped up change that was already happening. So we're still feeling the effects now, and we're all still kind of finding our feet. And the feeling that I've had for the last few months is that it's not that it's harder to build community on the internet, but what works now is different. And I personally have had this feeling of anxiety, of I desperately want to find out what it is moving into, what we're evolving into, so that I don't get left behind, so that I can keep up. I need to calm down with that, because changes happen gradually, and whatever we are pivoting into, God, there's that word again, I won't be left behind if I'm paying attention. But yeah, this whole sort of limbo state of, right, okay, this doesn't work anymore, but we still don't know what does work. Yeah, I hate that in-betweeny transitional stage, which is where we're at right now. So the talk that CONTE did, and I'll link to it in the description, and if the YouTube algorithm is doing its thing, it might even suggest it to you somewhere on your home screen if you're watching it on desktop or even on your phone. Let me know in the comments. Anyway, digressing, let's bring it back. His video, or his talk, it was called The Death of the Follower, and I was like, okay, as someone who runs her business online and, you know, builds community and an audience and following or subscribers or whatever the word is, I was interested. And he was talking about his early days on YouTube and how he loved the fact that it had a subscribe button, and that was how people could make sure that they kept seeing your content. And his point, and it was a really good point, was that that's kind of redundant now, because algorithms, not just YouTube, not just Etsy, Instagram, what any platform that has an algorithm now, everyone who follows you won't necessarily see your work. The algorithms will test it out with a key few, and if it does well with that group, it will expand it out to the next lot, and so on and so on. So it's more like a ripple effect. But you can post things and people who have subscribed to you may never see them unless they engage with it regularly, and therefore the algorithms deem them to be in that first group or second group of people that will be shown your content, if you see what I mean. So the subscribe button, as it was created, kind of no longer exists. And I have seen people describe it now as more like a souped up like button. So his argument was, do followers, do subscribers, do they have, well, he didn't say the same value as before, but he just sort of, his argument was like, is this still the metric that we should be chasing? Because I think back to my own behaviour on social media, and I'm a lot more passive with how I interact with people's work on any platform now than I ever used to be. In the past, I used to throw around those like little heart buttons, those favourites, those thumbs up, like they're going out of fashion. Just, yeah, you have a heart and you have a heart and we all have hearts. Now I realise that I rarely do. And even when I do, it's more on things like stories on Instagram, for example, than on grid posts. I'll tend to just scroll through, and I can see something that I genuinely enjoy, and I still won't like it. Not because I didn't like it, but because my behaviour on the platform has changed. I'm engaging less and just consuming mindlessly more. I'm not giving myself a hard time when I say that, but if I'm being brutally honest, that is how I am when I'm on the scroll. And I think if we're all being brutally honest, that's how a lot of us are now. So you can imagine from a creator's standpoint, from a maker's standpoint, from a handmade seller's standpoint, when you're trying to build a community with people who are a lot less engagement focused, it's going to be more difficult. And you can have a huge following and they might not be as engaged, and you might be struggling to reach all of those people because of said algorithms. Now, okay, most of us already know all of this. This isn't news. However, when you think of things like that, it kind of puts into focus how many of us, myself included, we're not helping the situation by still treating social media the same way that we did 4 or 5 years ago. The interesting thing about Reels and TikTok videos and Shorts here on YouTube is that we can fall into the trap of getting very angry with the platforms for bringing these things in. But I remember watching a interview with the CEO of YouTube, and he specifically said that they weren't leaning hard and fast into Shorts because they loved them and they just wanted to. They were following the demand and the behavior of viewers. It's the viewers that dictate what YouTube spend their time on, because they obviously want viewers on their platform. So what he said was that if the viewers are asking for and watching short form content, that's where they're going to be paying all of their attention, and it makes sense. So we're getting angry at something that we are contributing to with our own behavior. I don't make short form content, but I do consume a fair amount. So as a handmade seller, I do have to ask myself, am I missing a trick by not making short form content? Well, yes and no. Again, yes, I am missing something, but I already have my long form video YouTube thing down. And again, time. Only so much of it, one person. But I do think I'm going to try and carve out some more time to put some effort into some short form content, because I do think this is something that I need to at least get comfortable making on the internet. Even if I choose not to, I need to sort of, as far as a muscle goes, learn how to do it. So if you're already a person doing that, well done. Good news. You're not going to get left behind. And this is one of the things that I know that a lot of you are not going to like to hear, because you don't want to make reels and stuff. And that's absolutely fine. This is not a kind of you should make reels video. That's not what this video is about. It's more about trying to, and I'm doing a very bad job of it, but trying to highlight that the way that we used to use social media to promote our work has changed. And it's still changing. And a lot of us are starting to complain very bitterly that our work isn't getting the reach that it used to. Very frustrating, very justified. But we are not changing with the platforms. And these platforms are businesses in their own right. And they are going to change. That's just standard. The Instagram that we have now is not the Instagram of old, and it's not going to be the Instagram that we're going to see in 5-10 years time, if it lasts that long. Same with Etsy, same with TikTok, same with YouTube. Any platform, they are standalone businesses. And this is the thing, we use those businesses for free. We're not entitled to have it work the way we want it to work, which means if they change things, we need to evolve with it or be okay with the results that we get. And this is probably where I'm going to get a lot of people in the comments going, F him. I'm sorry. But I'm still seeing a lot of people digging their heels in, which is why I thought I would make this video. And also, again, as I say, having watched Jack Conte's talk on this, his talk was not doom and gloomy. I didn't watch it and leave it feeling sad or hopeless or fearful. So I do highly recommend that you go over and give it a watch. It's very interesting. He used the word energized quite a lot, and all credit to him, it worked, because I did feel a little bit energized when I came off that video. a little bit hopeful, a little bit optimistic that although things are changing under our feet and they haven't finished changing yet, and we're all trying to scrabble about trying to keep up with everything, I still feel hopeful that if we have online businesses and we have to advertise on these platforms, I'm quite optimistic that if we just be more open to change, we can survive this, which sounds very dramatic. There is another thing I want to say. I'm guilty of this myself, so please don't think I'm like rah, 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 because, you know, like I say, I'm in there with you, but I think there's a lot of us that are guilty of selling more than we give away for free. And here's what I mean by that. Over the last year or two, obviously the economic crisis, the cost of living crisis here in the UK, the whole mess of it has just been ramping up and up and up and up. And as such, it makes sense that we see people selling more online as they try to keep a roof over their heads, the lights on in their business, etc. It's natural. This is what happens during recessions and all of these things. However, I think it's fair to say that whenever we go on to social media now, it feels very much like we're being sold to again and again and again and again and again. And you get fatigued by that and you switch off. And I think as creators, we have to be really honest and ask ourselves if we're not creating this whole fatigue thing on social media and contributing to people engaging less with our stuff. Because even when it looks like we're giving something for free, we're usually trying to sell something. And like I say, I am guilty. I'm here and I am often promoting my stuff. Now, this is not a call to stop promoting your work and selling, because you've got bills to pay, you've got a business to run, and often you're doing this from a business account. So your viewers have to respect the fact that if they're following a business account, they're going to be sold to. However, I can't remember who came up with this originally, the whole 80-20 rule. I think it's usually the thought that 20% of your products will bring in 80% of your income or something like that. But I like to think that perhaps we should be selling 20% of the time and giving away something free 80% of the time. Or at the very least, making content that mixes the two. And I can think of a couple of accounts on Instagram specifically that do this really, really well. There's my mate Bex, who runs the Pigeon's Nest, and she makes reels that are entertaining but also specific to her business. So even without mentioning any products of hers, without mentioning the name of her shop, without doing any promotion, she's automatically promoting her shop because it's just in her content. It's about, you know, crochet and what she does, and it's entertaining, and she's making it to be entertaining. And if you've taken my course, you'll know that there's a word for this, and it's called it's not edutainment, that's what this is. It's retailtainment. That's the bunny, I had to remember. And she does this really, really well, which is why Instagram works really well for her, because she's not constantly like, buy this, buy this, buy this, what about this? She's also making content for her audience with no reason other than to entertain them. We're losing that. I feel like I'm losing that, and I want to get back to it. And I think that could be the key to building our businesses and selling online in future, and even building our communities. Obviously, we want to keep the lights on in our business. Obviously, we still need to promote ourselves, and obviously we still need to sell. But we also need to give stuff away. We have to build a community, and I've said it before, we have to contribute. And sometimes we need to contribute without there being an ask. If you run an online business, it makes sense that you have to promote your business online. However you do that, again, this was not a call to make reels. I just focused on that because I think on any platform that you're on, there's going to be a way that does best on any specific platform. And the people that grow the fastest and the best are going to be the people who embrace what works on a platform rather than working against it. Nevertheless, there are people who are not going to want to touch video content with a 6-foot pole, and that's perfectly fine. But we need to be okay with the results. And I think that's the tough love message to take away from this video. It's we have to evolve if we want our online businesses to survive the next few years, whatever's coming, it's changing and we need to change with it or we will be left behind. And if we don't, that is perfectly fine, but we need to be okay with the results. We cannot keep doing what worked 4 or 5 years ago and then complaining that we're not getting the traction that we want. And I am telling this to myself as much as I'm saying it to anyone else, so please don't think that I'm having a go at anyone, because like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm right there with you. Oh, God. Now I will just say before I go, if you want to build a community online but you haven't picked a platform yet, just think about what you need from a platform in order to do that. You need to be able to talk to your community. You also want to pick a platform where it's going to be easy for the people there to remember your name. And there are some platforms that do this better than others. This is the downside to short form content, because people can scroll past. It can really take something to get people to see your name, to register your name. And places like TikTok, people can have thousands and thousands of followers. And I've noticed that I follow people on TikTok, I don't even know their name. I watch their video, I know their face, I can see a video and go, oh, yeah, I've seen their videos. And I could not tell you their name. And I've got someone in my mind as I say this. I follow a, is it a D&D content channel? And he's on YouTube as well, and I can see his face, and I don't know the name at all, because on TikTok, I don't look. And I think a lot of people don't. So you just bear that in mind. If you're going to try and build a community online, it really is worth thinking about the platform, because some platforms are going to be better for you to build your business, your brand, and get your name out there than others. TikTok is quite tempting because you can get a lot of traction there. Their algorithm is amazing, but it is really, really crap for brand recognition. So just something to think about. So there you go, something a bit different this week, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Have you seen the video that I mentioned by Jack Conte? If not, again, I'm going to link to it in the description so that you can go and have a watch. And I really recommend that you do, because if anything in this video has made you feel a little bit first of all, I'm really sorry, that was not my intention. But his video, like I said, it kind of made me feel a bit energized and optimistic. So if you've been feeling any way like I've been lately, then definitely worth the watch. If for no other reason, then it will just maybe just lighten the anxiety a little bit. And let me know what you think. And I'll see you next week. Ta-ra.